If you're not doing that and you're here to learn more about connecting within the tech industry, relationship capital is going to be one of your keys. So, as she mentioned, I'm Leah Williams. I'm CEO of Digital Undivided. Digital Undivided is a network of about 20,000 entrepreneurs, overwhelmingly women, overwhelmingly Black and Latina women, who are running their businesses. A great example of Digital Undivided is our alum from one of our programs. I'm looking around the room to see if I see her. I don't see her right now, which is Shannon Morales, who is the CEO of Trabaja, hosting this Diversitech here today. If you want to know what you can do by coming through Digital Undivided's programs, look at Shannon. She's a great example of it. Also, you're probably wondering why I'm wearing this little QR code up here, which you can't see all that well. We are doing a survey to try to understand the ecosystem here in the Philadelphia region. Now that means Philadelphia, Delaware, New Jersey, the whole area, Northeast. So if you have a business or a side hustle or anything else, and you see me with the QR code, or I have two beautiful women here with me, Shanti and Akira, in the back, they also have QR codes. We'd love for you to take that survey. We give you $10 if you're a woman and you take the survey and you have this, you have a business. We also ask if you want to have a longer conversation. We give you more returns if you do that, because we really want to understand what the investment looks like here and how to bring more investment to the community of business leaders here. All right, so let's get to it. Digital Undivided is about an inclusion economy. Right? So we're disrupting any inequities in that inclusion economy to try to be sure that folks like yourself, me, and others are able to gain investment in our businesses and launch those. I said Shannon's a great example of us. I want to tell her thank you very much for this opportunity to speak today. And I just have to tell you that when they called and asked me to speak, they said, Leah, we want you to come up and speak about earnings. And I went, earnings? I mean, how many people here are bankers? Yay. How many people here are investment leaders or finance folks? Okay, we got a few. I didn't think the vast majority of the audience was going to be on that, so I was thinking, how am I going to speak about earnings to everybody and not have everybody fall asleep on me? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to translate the concepts of earnings and really focus on how relationship capital can be a multiplier for what we call earnings, okay? And so when you leave this room here today, I'm hoping that you'll leave with a very clear understanding of a couple of concepts that are key in business, key in life, and key in your personal life. The first one is revenue. The second one is income. No, they are not the same. And the third one is earnings. And earnings is earnings before tax, earnings after tax, all of the pieces of it. And yes, for my bankers in the audience, I'm going to give a very simplistic version of this, but I want people to hold on to it. Okay, so I was talking with my team about this, and I said, how can I make this real for them? So you can understand these concepts, and then we're going to go to how relationship capital is your multiplier. Let me give you an example. On my team is a wonderful person named Anna. When she's not on our team working, she's chasing her dream to be a professional musician. Just released an album, by the way. Yeah, whew. We're waiting for her to get the Grammys. That relates to the story. Okay, she sells what I would call CDs back in the day. That tells my age right now. Yeah, now I guess it's songs to Apple. I don't know. She sells rights to her songs. People pay money for this. That's revenue, right? She has a product or service. You sell that product or service. They give you money. That's revenue. All right. She gains a great following. Now people show up whenever she shows up someplace. Somebody calls up and says, hey, Anna, come to this party. I'll give you $5,000. That's income. That's not her products or services. It's because she is so prevalent, her brand, her awareness of who she is, she's gaining income, another stream of money that's coming in, not directly related to her products or services, but related to how well she's done with her products or services. There's her income. Now let's talk about her earnings. And then we're going to move to relationship capital. Her earnings are, you look at both the revenue and the income. And if you're somebody who has a business and you want investment capital, let me tell you the term you have to know, EBITDA. Earnings, E, before, B, interest, I, taxes, T, and amortization, A. All of your investment, your venture capitalists that are in our CapEx network and others are looking for what is that business if it has a $1 million EBITDA, $5 million EBITDA, whatever that is. So EBITDA, E for earnings. That means revenue, income, putting them together, taking a look at it. B, before, interest. So there's interest that people can accrue on money. Taxes, we all know that, right? We know what that is. And amortization. Some businesses have both products or land or things like that that are amortized over a long period of time. So no EBITDA. All right, capital, relationship capital. Let's go into relationship capital and talk about what is this and think about how it can be the great multiplier. So I titled this as relationship capital can be the great multiplier because in my own life, I have found that some of the greatest opportunities as well as what I would say loss of opportunities have really been based around relationships. And that relationship capital has delivered revenue to my life and to my business and to businesses I've had, income to my life, and frankly earnings, and it has impacted the EBITDA of businesses that I've been the leader of. And so I wanted to come in today to say, let me give you some of the secrets about relationship capital and making it a secret multiplier. And I'm going to do it through a story. And in order to know this, you have to know who Juan Francisco Lara is. So Juan Francisco Lara, in the early 90s, dating myself, I'm walking up the stairs at UC Irvine, which is my undergraduate institution. I've only been on campus once before in my life. I'm a transfer student. And I don't know where the registration desk is. It's also January. So, you know, it's kind of odd. Most people had been there for the fall quarterly. I had not. So, you know, I'm standing there on the stairs like, where in the world is this registration? And off comes this tall, dapper Latino gentleman with a bow tie named Juan Francisco Lara. I don't know his name at the time. But I have never been shy to say hello to somebody. So I stop him and say, hey, do you know where pardon me, sir, can you tell me where the registration desk is? He's a little curious. Why is there a student standing here looking for registration? She's already been here for 3 or 4 months. So he asked me, I said, I'm a transfer student. Great. Here's the first moment of relationship development. Hands me his card. Now think about your freshman year in college, how many people did this? Hands me his business card and says, hey, I do student affairs, you should come by sometime and talk to me. I said, great, I'll do that. He says, no, I mean it. I said, no, I really will do that. Because Leah, the person who was there, first of all, part of the story is first to college, so not an experience there in my family, and I'm paying for this. So my thinking is, he essentially works for me, so I'm going to show up to his office. So on goes forward through my time in college. I show up to his offices, take his classes. You know, he knows who I am, I know who he is, etc. So let's fast forward a little bit here. The relationship has started, and the capital part of it is where we want to think about. So Dr. Lara becomes a pivotal part of my life and story for the next 20 years. And not out of intention on my part whatsoever. It was literally that mere accidental meeting on the stairs. And how does that occur? Relationship capital is built over time. It's not a transaction. And that's one of the key things I want to mention to folks as you're here today. As you see, look around the room and you meet all of these folks. It's not a single transaction. It's not an exchange of something. It really is something that's seasoned over time. And it's seasoned with the investment of 3 things. Effort. It does take effort to keep in touch with somebody. Even LinkedIn makes it a whole lot easier, let's be clear. No longer the big Rolodexes. But it takes effort. It takes investment of your expertise, a piece a lot of people forget about, and investment of your emotion. And Juan Francisco Lara is the example of this and has impacted my entire life all the way through to today. So let me give you some examples of this to put it in real terms for you. So I go about, finish my college, run a nonprofit, still send Dr. Lara cards, check in on his kids, hear about his wife, you know, all the basic stuff. Every so often he comes, I moved back to San Francisco, which is where I'm from originally. Everybody, when he comes to San Francisco, I'd say to him, hey, you come up here at least once a year, why don't we have coffee? So once a year, so I'd go to coffee with him. This is the same person I met on the stairs 5, 6 years ago, and hear about what's happening for him. So there's an investment of effort on my part. So now I've decided, I think I want to go to law school. I've been out of college for a few years. So I call up Dr. Lara. He shares his effort and expertise with me, writes a letter of recommendation. Many people think of that transaction with professors and academics as limited there. But let me tell you more about how this develops. So I go off to law school, graduate from law school. Now, through a turn of a number of events, I'm CEO of a company where I'm one of the investors, and there's other investors. We're looking at the board of advisors of who we're going to do. So I call up Dr. Lara. And I say, Dr. Lotta, do you know anybody you think would be great on this advisory board for this company that I'm co-founding and has some investors? He happens to know the investment group that's backing us. And he says, I do. Let me introduce you to so-and-so and have them come and be on this group. So off goes that company, which does really well. Now I'm in there running this company. Same thing, investment of effort. We're at coffee, our annual coffee every year. And I say to Dr. Lotta, gosh, I got a great new client, California Public Utilities Commission. Okay. And Dr. Lotta, has now risen through the ranks of UC Irvine, so he's very big in education. And I say, and they really want someone to come and speak to them about the state of education in California. I'm thinking right now that I'm going to pay back some of the effort of this relationship capital to him by asking him to speak. And he says, no. He says, no, thank you so much for the offer. But I actually think that you should look at the CEO of WestEd. I'm on the board of this largest educational research institute in the nation. I think you should ask the CEO of that. Her name is Dr. Glenn Harvey. I say, okay, sure, no problem. Dr. Glenn Harvey, he makes a warm introduction. I ask her to come and be the speaker. She's the speaker. She asked me to lunch. I say, sure. We began a relationship of yearly lunches, Dr. Glenn Harvey and I. Fast forward a few more years, so that's the first relationship capital. He's on her board. He's her board member. So now I'm talking with her every year just to check in and see how things are going. And one day she calls me up, asks me for my expertise. Hey, Leah, can I take you to lunch? I want to ask you a couple questions on something. Sure. You're a lawyer, right? Yes, I don't practice law, but I'm a lawyer. At the time, I'm CEO of a firm. And I said, sure. And she says, well, we're this really big research institute, but we have really survived without a legal department all these years. They've been around for like 60, 70 years at the time. And she said, but the regulatory environment's really changing. And we really think we need to have a legal department. And I think we should hire a contract lawyer because we have all these contracts. What do you think? I said, not what I would do. And she said, and I want to know if you want the job. I said, thank you very much. No, I don't. And she said, I thought you wanted to go back to practicing law. I said, I do want to go back to practicing law, but this is not the job that I want. So I tell her what I think that they should do in terms of their legal department. She says, thank you so much. That's not what we want to do. Goes back to doing what she wants to do. Still has annual lunches with me. So she's still investing effort. I'm sharing my expertise. Okay? So we're still moving along here. Come back about 6 months later. She calls me up again, says, hey, can I take you to lunch again? I said, it's not time for our annual lunch. She says, I know. We're going to do a little, make it coffee. I said, okay, great. She says, okay, I talked with the board, and I talked with the leaders there and a few other folks, and we think you're right. We don't want to hire a contracts lawyer. We want to hire a general counsel. Would you like that job? And I said, no, that job I'll think about. So I went on to be there for close to a decade as the general counsel, built out their entire legal department and contracting department for WestEd. And that relationship capital is entirely tied to the fact that I met Juan Francisco Lotta on the stairs of UC Irvine, at that point, maybe 15 years earlier. And Glenn Harvey and I kept up our annual lunches, even when I worked there. Juan Francisco Lotta and I kept up our annual lunches as I continued through, as the GC for WestEd. And what do I want you to take away from this? And then I'm going to point out some of the specifics so you can really translate the terms to your life. Networking or connecting with people is not transaction-based. For me, I see this as being one of the keys as a multiplier of your effort. Opportunity has to come along. You have to put effort to that opportunity. But one of the multipliers is the people that you know and in your life that you have that relationship capital with. And they don't have to be the people you met yesterday. And it's not a one single transaction with someone. So, for example, I shared my expertise with Glenn Harvey. Glenn Harvey shared an opportunity with me that I turned down the first time. Many folks were like, you want to go back into practicing law? Any lawyers in the room? Are there any lawyers in the room? Yeah, I see a few. So for lawyers in the room, lawyers in the room can explain to everybody else if you don't know, or if you do know already, going in-house is like the coup de grace of being a lawyer. You go to a law firm, you put in your sweat equity, your time, you get treated terribly, and you hope to go to be an in-house counsel. So having someone offer you an in-house counsel job and having the person say no is not typical, but does occur. Being offered general counsel after having not been practicing for a number of years is a little bit odd, but the relationship capital that had been built with Glenn Harvey over the years, talking through issues of education, issues around her contracting and things, was what made the difference in terms of when they thought about who they wanted to have be their general counsel. It obviously impacted revenue in my life when Dr. Latta gave that advisory board member onto our advisory board. When I was CEO of strategies, that was clear revenue into our lives. The advisory board member was very prominent, brought actual income into life because this person shined a light on what we were doing and gave a number of opportunities for myself and other folks to be speakers. So there's the income coming along with the revenue. Clearly my earnings are changing at this point in time on a personal level. But then also, you know, I went to West Ed. I was there for 8 to 10 years. I left, and then I went to Public Health Institute, just the largest standalone health institute, you know, in a really key little time, July of 2019, pandemic time. And, you know, that relationship capital really paid off in understanding sort of how one makes investments in their time and life. You never know when they're going to pay off. So what I always encourage people to do is think about it as a multiplier as opposed to an outcome determinant for what they're going to do. So let me just tell you that the seasoning of time on these is really critical. And I just want to say, because I would be remiss not to, is that, you know, the effort that you put into your relationship capital is not outcome determinant. I can tell you that as I was at West Ed in those last couple of years, Juan Francisco Latta was still serving on the board. He stepped down from the board. I invested effort regardless of the outcome. About a couple of years before I leave West Ed, he gives me a call and tells me he's got a diagnosis. He's got cancer. So, you know, myself and other colleagues, including my CEO, go about doing what many of you, I'm sure, have done for family, friends, or for yourselves, which is dedicating yourself to supporting them emotionally, giving them, you know, an opportunity to really focus all their energies into beating cancer, which he beat on the first turn of things. Yeah, so he beats cancer, goes into remission after a year or two, and then turn around after that, about 6 months in remission or so, he gets a diagnosis again. So we know this time that it's not going to be, it's highly unlikely to be a positive outcome there. Did I stop sending cards, checking in on his kids, asking how his wife's doing, calling him up, telling him I'm pregnant with my daughter? Does he stop sending me every birthday for my kids? He'd send $2 bills to the age of who, you know, for their each year. So like if you're 3, you get 3 $2 bills. So the last free $2 bill I got was my daughter's born in May 26th. He died June 11th. I think it was June 11th, something around there in June. And her birthday, literal birthday in life, was the last card with $2 bills that I got from him. And so for me, it really gave me a clear understanding that, you know, when you invest in relationship capital, it's something you're investing into season over time. It's not something that because somebody got a promotion, then you make a call and say, hey, can you help me out? It's not really about that. It's really about investing that effort, expertise, and emotion into those relationships and thinking about them as opportunities for two people to share in that work. So I hope you leave today with a very clear understanding. Where's my bankers in the room? Hope I did a fair job for you all. I'm looking right at you here, darling, for you talking about it. That I wanted to make sure that you left here with a clear understanding of revenue, right? Is revenue income? No, not the same thing. Don't let people tell you, oh, revenue and income are the same thing. Absolutely not. Revenue in relationships is things that you can get back from somebody that you've done. That's the transactional piece of it. But let's not stop there. Income, it's all the things that you gain collaterally from having had that relationship. In your personal life, the income that happens is often when somebody you know that you have a relationship with then knows someone else, and because of that affiliation, they say, oh yeah, I'll have a conversation with you. Let's talk. There's your income right there. Because you didn't have to even ask your person to make an introduction. They say, oh, you know John? I know John. Let's have a conversation. There's income into your life. And then your earnings, which is how you put that together with your own effort and you look at opportunity and you match those that come across your desk. So when someone hands you a card or says, give me a call or follow up with me, do it. And keep those relationships going on to the future. So, like I said, I'm Leah Williams, Digital Undivided. So thrilled to be here at Diversitech. This is a great opportunity. For all of you who are entrepreneurs, I hope you'll take our survey. You'll look for Shanti and Akira, who's in the back of the room, who are pushing this. And let me just tell you, as I said, we have programs across the board. We work with sponsors to try to defray the vast majority of the cost of these programs. If you want to know what you can do with your business or your side hustle, you really look at Shannon Morales and Trabaja, who's throwing this great conference, and she's a great story of our success. Thank you for today, and I'll take questions if you need any. Do we have time for a question or no?
You have.
Okay. If there's anyone who wants to ask any questions, I'd be happy to answer them on anything. Business startup, being a lead lawyer. Yes, here you go.
Thank you so much for talking to this. I think it's all important, especially as we transition in or out of your Can you talk a little bit about what it's been like having to manage not only professional relationship capital,
Mm-hmm.
but also, I know you mentioned having family. How do you balance that, particularly as a woman, even working with people, going into spaces, knowing that there is kind of some, there's additional options.
Yes. Yes. Great question. First of all, so did everybody hear the question? He said, you know, help me understand a little bit about how you balance in terms of your professional relationship capital, but actually your personal relationship capital, particularly being a woman, being a black woman, and being in this jobs and roles that I've been. So true, amongst general counsels of large organizations in that size, there's like less than 1% are black women. So, and I know most of them because there's so few. And so, yeah, being chief legal officer and general counsel, you're often in the room, and I've done mergers and acquisitions and things, so you're often in the room on deals or in those things where you're the only person in the room, or you're the only woman in the room, you're the only woman of color in the room for sure, and doing this work. And then how to balance on a personal level. So I have two daughters, they're 9 and 14, and they're adorable. And I would say, I used to run a company called Strategies, and I was telling a father who was here last night, oh, he's not here today, that get strategic on how you make that balance. Okay, so I'll talk about the balance part, and then I'll talk real quick about the relationship capital piece. But this is a relationship capital. So for anyone who has children who travels for work, people always ask me, how did you do it? And I tell them my 9-year-old went 20 round trips the first year of her life. So I had a friend who just loved to travel, wanted to go to all the states, and had a very flexible job. And so every time I had to travel for work, she'd say, I want to go. I'll keep the baby. You can go to the meeting. I get to see the location. Win-win. I'll pay for your plane ticket. That's all I have to do. Win-win. I've taken cousins, sisters, brothers, you name it. You know, more of them want to go to the Hawaii trip for work than want to go to the Iowa trip, I'll be honest. But there's one way that I do it. The second way that I do it is I team up. I'm also a single mom. So I team up with other folks, you know, their friends, parents, and things like that. Now, I'm not a person who likes to let my kid go to other people's houses. I'm just one of those moms. But there are a couple of people that I have developed relationships over time where we feel that level of comfort, often in my family or not. So I tell people to get really strategic because, frankly, just paying for care and paying for that balance, you can throw money at it from a resource perspective, but that doesn't always solve your challenge because it's your child, it's your life, right? And so having somebody else there. And for me, I don't come from a background where there was any money involved. So that was not an option. So I had to get really resourceful with my relationship capital. And I was getting opportunities to be in places and be in spaces that I had friends and family that would love to be in those places and spaces. And so if I could have them be there because I was taking my kid along, I would do it. The other thing you probably would find, and I'll end now because I'm coming up to time, is that I'm not too shy about sort of saying what I want or what I mean or what I feel. That does get me in trouble sometimes in some of those rooms that you have. So, but when it comes to my family, family's first. And so I would bring my kids with me to things because my belief in this is that it's good for me and it's also good for my daughters. So now that they're 9 and 14, they're very clear. They have seen me speak. They've sat next to me and played with their toys when I was on a commission accrediting colleges. They've done all the things, right? And they've learned as a result how to sit quietly in a room when adults are speaking, how to, even though they got a little extra iPad time then, doesn't mean they always have a little extra iPad time. They've learned how to observe if mommy's in a disagreement with somebody in that conversation, whatever that situation is, how mommy handles it, and then, okay, now we can all go out and have dinner. So these are very important lessons for the children, too. So that's how I've balanced it. Welcome. Thank you so much. And I'll be around if anybody wants to say hello or talk. Thanks.
Please give it up. Please give it up for Ms.